So down there is the interstate, and this is one of the roads that comes right off the interstate and goes north, right? There's a lot of traffic on it, and right here we see one of the billboards that was about Proposition 112. If you zoom in real close, you can see, this is closer than anybody could see from the road, but you can see it says, paid for by protecting Colorado's environment, economy, and energy independence. And the confusion on this matter, it starts at the name of the PAC that is paying for this ad. They're trying to confuse people as to whether a yes or no vote will protect Colorado's environment. And down the road from that sign, which is right there past that house, you can see part of the red right there. Down the road, we've got this billboard here, which is a lot smaller. It says, yes on 112, protect your health, paid for by Colorado Rising for Health and Safety. Right? Also, kind of visible from all the traffic coming off of the highway onto this really main road. I'm going to do the rest of this video from the house because I don't want to have all this noise that's about to happen. So, a couple videos ago, I changed my mind about something that I had voted on. And that was Amendment 74. And what happened with Amendment 74 was everybody else either realized what I thought about it or they were already on that side because it did fail, just like I had wanted. Unfortunately, Prop 112 also failed. Now, Amendment 74 had some tricky language to it. And basically, I originally thought that it would protect farmers from having fracking companies require an easement onto their property to get to their minerals because they own the mineral rights below the property that the farm is on. Because here in Colorado, we have a lot of people who own like the topsoil property, and the mineral rights they don't actually own for their own property, the stuff that's down below their property, which makes things very confusing. So, yeah, I thought it would protect them by saying, if you're required to give an easement to somebody else by law, and it affects your property value, then you could sue the government. Right? Then I realized that had far-reaching implications, and that the fracking companies that had invested in property that they thought had shale reserves below it, if they were required to have setbacks that would move their wells away from any habitations, like Prop 112 would require, they could then sue the government for lost revenue from oil wells that they would have been placing close to people's houses. And I thought, well, damn. These two things on the same ballot, the setbacks and the amendment for restitution if the law makes you lose money, both of these, they have some interplay to them that is very, very tricky. And I realized that there's a lot of conservative-minded people, be they Republicans or just fiscally conservative people, that also probably realized this law was not even just about fracking, right? This Amendment 74, it was about businesses in general. The way that it's worded, it would have such far-reaching implications that we do not want people to be able to sue the government anytime a law prevents them from making a profit. That's just bonkers, right? So Amendment 74 didn't pass. It was voted down by 54%, right? And I feel like if people were better educated on what those implications would have been, it would have been a much higher margin. But what's weird is Prop 112, which would have required setbacks for the oil and gas industry, more than 1,000 feet they would have had to go back to 2,500 feet away from houses. That didn't pass. That was voted no 56%. And both of these things had a lot of lobbying by the oil and gas industry. Oil and gas industry wanted Amendment 74, but they didn't want Prop 112, which is the opposite of the way that I voted. I voted no on Amendment 74 so that they wouldn't have those protections, which that's the way that the election worked out. But I also voted yes on the setbacks. So my position was completely against the oil and gas industry. They were lobbying very hard for both in ads. And I feel like there is a select few people that are working in the oil and gas industry or understand it and understand politics and whatnot, who they realize that the biggest win for the oil and gas industry, but also not having this terrible precedent of people being able to sue the government. The fiscally conservative win would be Amendment 74 fails, right? So they were thinking with their completely conservative mind, their completely fiscally conservative mind, when they made the votes that they did. There was a good 10% swing between the two, as far as like one failing and then the other failing. The mindset had a 10% swing. So 10% of the voters, they realized that not everything that the oil and gas industry was putting forth was best for them. They wanted to have either them and their families work in the oil and gas industry and not be affected by setbacks. And also they saw through the bullshit. And here's what really fucking gets me. This is the intriguing part for me. Is if they're able to see through the bullshit of the ads and able to, in order to vote the way that they did, and only go along with one thing that served their purposes, that was in their interests, how is it that they aren't able to see the lies that were in Prop 112 as far as just the advertising? For the people who are saying vote no on 112, to name their PAC, their organization, protecting the environment, when you can see that the actual protecting the environment side was vote yes on 112 and have the setbacks. For them to deceptively also name their PAC about protecting the environment. You'd think that these people that were so smart that they could see that something wasn't in their financial short-term best interest would also see, hey, my side is engaging in a lot of deception. It seems like they can't get shit passed, or they don't think that they can, have an effect on the election unless they lie to people, right? And they're not. Maybe they're just voting for their wallets, and maybe they don't care about the environment. Maybe they think, I get mine and fuck future generations. They can all have cancer. Fuck them. They're not living my life. I'll be dead and gone by the time all those people are suffering. By the time all their water supplies are all fucking spoiled by leaks from our wells, we'll be, dead and gone, and we will have made our money and hopefully left a little bit of an inheritance to, our children who may or may not have cancer. Maybe we pay for the cure for them, and, fuck everybody else. At some level, it's something close to that. It is. It is so obvious to me that the people who can realize that Amendment 74 had those far-reaching consequences, and they didn't want to toe the line that they were given by their employers and their party, and they broke, the 10% of the voters that broke from the narrative, right? Those 10% should be, if they're smart enough to see that they needed to vote that way, they should also see that their industry is horrible, and that it uses lies in order to stay in business, and it spends so much more money on ads that are full of lies in order to protect themselves from the people voting them out of existence, because they are horrible for the environment, and they know it. And they fucking know it. And they're willing to lie about it in order to stay in business, because they have to, And it's a political money machine that people are waking up to. And so deception has to be used in order to keep it in existence. I feel like I'm just rambling on about the same point. So I'll cut this short now. This time tomorrow I should be hanging out with Jordy Weeds. He's flying in from Canada. And so there's going to be a couple vloggy style posts on this channel about his visit here. We're going to the 25th anniversary of the UFC show here in Denver, and that will be great. And first stop after we see some of the funny under construction signs in the Denver airport that are mocking conspiracy theorists. Right after that, we're going to go see Blucifer. So everything in between Blucifer and going to the show on Saturday, I think is up in the air. Except for we're going to a meetup for the Colorado YouTube Club, just having a breakfast, and I think we're going to see some special guests there as well. So. Yeah, see you after all that with another ramble. But I'm taking a break from rambling, and we're going to vlogging for a good weekend. So take care, everybody. Politics. I'm relieved that the midterms are over, and I'm kind of. I'm kind of just dreading that the presidential election that's 2 years out, the campaigning for it has just started, the day after the midterms. It never ends.